security related in their minds they are going after. That's one of the things we were getting very clear about last night in the workshop last night.
Well, I think the Harper government is militarizing Canada. It's increased the defense budget. It's changed our forces from peacekeepers to combat forces. There's been a lot of propaganda in the last couple of years about militarization and so on. And from that point of view, it's important for them to get the war resistors out of here because
Yes.
it helps militarize the country.
Exactly, yeah, and look at the G20. If you want to talk about the militarization of Canada, living in a police state, it's horrible. You're absolutely right. That's what it is. But you know, we still have to go back to the Liberal government because we actually did have 2 Liberal governments before Harper that still wouldn't give any sanctuary to resistors. Well, first it was Paul Martin when Jeremy arrived. Okay, so he was prime minister for a minute. But then under Chrétien, you know, we didn't progress very far with Chrétien either. So, you know, it's not just Harper. I mean, it is worse under Harper. Yeah. Well, how much of those 18 billion are new fighter jets that we don't need? Yeah. That will go on way beyond after we're done with Afghanistan. So now Canada's vision for its military and future is more and more and more combat. So, and the resisting the resistors ties right into this more combative role for Canada worldwide. Absolutely right.
So obviously, these deportations and potential deportations of the war resistors is really interconnected into Canada's whole flawed immigration system, which violently deports people on a daily basis who are seeking refuge here in Canada. I'm wondering how much you guys have been working with other migrant rights organizations or with immigration reform organizations and stuff like that, kind of build a broader front on this issue, considering, as I said, it's all very interconnected to a border system that wants to exclude as many people as possible.
Well, we have the support of the Canadian Council on Refugees. They're actually, I believe, official endorsers of the campaign, I think. And Amnesty International considered, like, for example, considered Robin Long a prisoner of conscience. So we have that kind of support. The support of the Canadian Council on Refugees and Canadian Refugee Lawyers Association is very, very important because they will look at flaws in the immigration system as a whole. No one is illegal. We're not affiliated with them, but they support us unofficially. They're not an endorser, but they come to our events. So ideologically, yeah, we're very aligned with them. And like I said, yeah, we have the official recognition by immigration lawyers associations and Canadian Council on Refugees because they see the resistors as part of a huge problem of, like, Kenny's, like, the year before, the Operational Bulletin was his summer of bogus refugees. So he lumped us in with Czech Roma, Mexican refugee claimants, war resistors, so we tainted them all with that same brush. So people who will be writing out and speaking out against broader immigration reform will mention resistors alongside Roma, alongside Mexican. And our lawyer actually, the other half of her clientele who aren't war resistors are Mexican. So she's not getting rich anytime soon, Melissa. She's just fresh out of law school. She just finished articling when she started taking on our cases. So, but to date, only one American citizen has ever been granted refugee status in Canada. So I just think that politically, they just do not want to do that. Declare Americans refugees. No, refugees are people who are brown and don't speak English. Hey, does he look like a refugee? Ooh, we can't have it. You can't be a refugee. You're Americans. Just Latin-faced Americans. So that's why we're going to take it out of the refugee process. That's a very good question in terms of are we aligned, and Yeah, so in some ways, upper levels, yes, grassroots, not so much. We have to, as a campaign, we're small. We're actually a grassroots campaign of 20, 30 people with zero funding that got two parliamentary motions passed, and almost had a private members bill passed. So we're focusing just solely on this one issue. Everybody who works with the campaign, we would love to be able to go broader and work with different sorts of organizations, but we're not even actually involved in troops out of Afghanistan because we're so focused on Iraq or resistors. And that's politically, strategically the way it has to be right now.
Are there resistors from Afghanistan who want to come back? Canadian?
We don't do anything with Canadians who resist Afghanistan.
So you don't know?
Oh, there are some who
Yeah.
refused, yeah. Yeah, they don't put them in jail.
They would because they kill a lot of civilians.
Oh yeah, no, there are, you know, there's more and more resistance to Afghanistan, and some Canadian soldiers have been speaking publicly that I refuse to go to Afghanistan, but we don't put Canadian soldiers in prison for refusing to deploy to Afghanistan. So why should we send Americans off to be, you know, jailed in the U.S. for refusing Iraq when we wouldn't even go to Iraq? It's the hypocrisy that kind of, at the end of the day, wrangles.
To me, it's always been about just getting them to recognize existing laws that Canada has their name on. I'm sorry, but the Nuremberg Principles, the Geneva Conventions,
Yeah.
it spells it all out very clearly right there.
Yeah.
Like what is and what is not a war of aggression. It's spelled out.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting them to recognize their own documents with their own names on it. And I don't understand, like, I don't see the problem. I don't get it. Their signatures on it, Canadian
Yeah, no,
signatures.
it
seems like it would be a simple matter of.
It's purely political games. Canada has accepted refugee soldiers from other conflicts. Quite a few of them. It's just that these happen to be American. We've given asylum to Iranian soldiers refusing to fight in Iraq, and Iraqi soldiers, I think, refusing to fight in Iran. Soldiers in Eritrea refusing to fight against Rwanda or whatever. I'm not sure history of African conflicts, but we do. It's just that we won't give refugee status to American soldiers in a war that we
Canada didn't support in the first
Canada
place.
wouldn't support. It's nuts.
But isn't it also the Harper government's solidarity with the United States war effort? Like, you let people in, resistors in, you're backing the alliance with the states and the support for the war in Afghanistan. And also, behind the scenes, there's a government support for Iraq.
Behind the scenes, there's government support but behind the scenes, we have had soldiers in Iraq from the very beginning. Not officially, but we had an elite squad of something like 12 or 20 soldiers that were working with the U.S. on training or training police or some special ops thing, but we actually have had. Yeah.
That's kind of a weird thing to me. I saw more Canadian troops in Iraq than I saw in Toronto. I don't get, like, I understand, like, they're not officially Canadian troops are not officially there, but they are there.
But they are there.
I've seen them, they're there.
Yeah. You'll never hear a Canadian politician talk about that.
But
it's never been
why would
publicly
they?
discussed.
But
But
it would cause a huge argument that none of them can afford.
yeah.
I mean, for me, at least, the major difference is that the Canadian troops that I saw there anyway were doing things that we said we would do, setting up infrastructure, rebuilding sewer lines, building hospitals. That's what the Canadian troops were doing. Meanwhile, we're sitting there bombing them. So we're blowing up the hospitals, and Canadian troops are turning around fixing them so we can blow them up again. At what price stupidity?